Hi family, welcome back to a new video. I'm so happy to be here. I'm gonna tell you today how you can get around Gambia very easily. It doesn't matter if you are a newcomer to Gambia or if you're staying for long term. This video will give you valuable tips. My name is Chinye. If you don't know me, I'm half Surinamese and half Nigerian. I was born and raised in the Netherlands, and I make a lot of videos about Gambia because it's truly a country that has my heart. I will tell you all the things I know about transportation in Gambia so that you don't have to struggle. I would be very grateful if you would subscribe to my YouTube channel. You can do it here. I'm trying to get to 1,000 followers so we can get monetized on YouTube and create even more magic. Because how can you really move like a local? Moving around in Gambia can be very confusing when you first come. It's especially confusing because you have a mix of public and private transport, but you cannot always see from the outside if something is private or public. Okay, let's start with the taxis. So you will have green taxis and you will have yellow taxis. A lot of local Gambian people don't have their own car, so they will also use the taxis. Personally, I don't understand why the green ones exist. They call it the tourist taxis. I don't really see the difference between it, but they are more expensive. So I cannot give you information on that. I would just take the yellow one if I was you. The yellow taxis work in different ways. The first way you can get the yellow taxi is by taking a town trip. Nobody else is getting in the car. It's just you going from location A to location B, and obviously it's the most expensive price. When you want to get a taxi in Gambia, you stick your hand out and you do your finger like this. That's just how they do it. That's how they know you want to enter. If a taxi drives past you without stopping, it usually means that they are busy. Even if they don't have customers inside, they have somewhere to be. So don't get like all in your feelings and ego hurt because that's just how it goes in Africa. So if you put your finger like this and the taxi stops, ask them before what their rates are. I find it a little bit difficult to tell you what the prices are supposed to be, but I would say, let's say you go from the airport down to Turntable. I would say a reasonable fare would be like $900, something like that. But they will probably ask you like 1,100, 1,200. If you want to pay that, that's okay. It's not too like overdoing it, but you can get lower if you want. I have paid like 800, 700 to go to the airport, but for them, that's a little bit low price. So if you want to go from, let's say, Turntable all the way up to Sanyang, I think you would pay like 500, $600, but they will ask maybe more, maybe 800, 900, something like that. One thing that's smart to do if you want to take town trip a lot of the time is if you find a driver that you like, ask them for their information, ask for the card, just get yourself your own private taxi. A lot of Gambians have their own private taxi like that. It's also good for them because they know they have continuing business. If the taxi driver of the yellow taxi is not taking a town trip at the moment, he will also operate as a shared ride. So that means that he will take up to 4 people in his car and then the fare will be lower. This is basically the same way. You also point your finger like this and then they stop. And you do have to specify like where you're going and that you are not taking a town trip, because if you are a foreigner they usually expect you're going to take a town trip. So let them know it's not a town trip and tell them where you want to go. So I'm going to tell you now, I think the most important thing to know, which can be confusing at times, when you get on the taxi you can get on it anywhere. So there's no bus stops where you need to go to get on a taxi. You can just stand anywhere in the street, point your finger, and they will stop. The same thing with going out. You can tell them, stop, I need to go out, and they will stop anywhere in the street. There are certain stops, popular destinations, where they will go to. Doesn't mean that you have to ride with them all the way to the destination, but you do have to pay. So there's no certain entry points and getting off points, but there are certain stops where they go to and where they will charge you based on the kilometers they make. So let's say you are a turntable. Turntable is just a big roundabout that's a very popular location, very central. If you want to go from turntable to Senegambia, which is the tourist trip where you have a lot of restaurant, that's about 3 to 5 kilometers. So that little piece of traveling, that's a fee, like a fixed fee. So that will be around 12 dalasi. Prices will change. So there's certain distances that is 12 dalasi. So every time you pass that distance, you will pay another 12 dalasi. As I'm explaining this, I really hope that you get it because I'm not trying to make this any more difficult than it is. It's actually very easy, but maybe if you haven't done it, it sounds difficult. Okay, so before you enter a car, I advise you to always ask them where they are going because there's a lot of cars, a lot of taxis, a lot of minivans, and they go in all different types of directions. And you cannot see from the outside where they're going. There's not a sign or a system. Only when you are in the country itself, will eventually start to recognize and make sure that you check your Google Maps to also know what is the endpoint of my destination. Okay, so let's go to the minivans. These are buses that can hold a lot of people. I don't even know how many, maybe like 20 or something. These minivans are a great way to get around. They are a bit chaotic though. There's a lot of people and a lot of things happening. They also tend to drive off sometimes when you're not fully seated. It's a little bit hectic, but you know, it's Africa and you will get used to it. Like the same price you need to pay as when I just told you, it's the 12 dalasi. You can just get on it anywhere you want, get off anywhere you want. But before you enter, ask them where are they going. And also when you need to stop, tell them in advance that you need to stop. And I'm talking like maybe 8 seconds before you want to go out, tell them to stop because they will not immediately stop. They will ride it out. And if you tell them too late, you will end up having to walk 10 minutes back home. If you want them to stop, just say my mafi, my mafi. I don't know if I'm saying it correct, but they will understand. Just say my mafi because that means like stop here. They don't always stop when you yell stop. But if you say my mafi, because it's their language, they will stop earlier. They will process it quickly, more quickly than if you just speak English, you know? So MIMA fee, and they will stop. The money, when you pay the money, it's a little bit different. Sometimes they want you to pay the money when you are stepping in the vehicle. Sometimes they want you to pay the money mid trip. And sometimes they want you to pay the money at the end of the trip. It depends. It depends on how busy the guy is. They call him the apprentice. You have one guy that's driving the van. You don't really get to speak to him, and then you have one other guy, which is the apprentice. Sometimes they are also small children and they collect all the money. So I'm really, I'm really impressed with them because they somehow they manage to remember everything. So they remember who has paid and who hasn't paid. And they remember how much someone needs to pay. And they also remember how much change to give back. And they also have to like make sure the driver stops. They also have to make sure new people get onto the bus, sometimes even like shouting and promoting because they want to have customers. And sometimes they also help carry the stuff. If there's a woman who has like a big basket with food on it that's heavy, they will carry it for her. Or if she has a baby, they will hold the baby while she's getting inside the vehicle. And they really have this very dynamic, cool role that I think needs to be studied because it requires a lot. And I think people underestimated how much it requires. And I'm especially pleasantly surprised when they are younger children. I'm like, wow, you're already being able to do this at your age. And also just the social aspect, like having to communicate with everyone and having all those balls rolling at the same time. That's impressive. If you don't know where you need to go out, just tell the apprentice where you are going and ask them if you can stop when you're there. One thing you need to be aware of is if you give the apprentice money, Sometimes he needs to give you change, but he doesn't have enough change. So he's waiting until more customers come and give him money so he has the correct amount to give you back. So be aware of your own money situation. And I, the apprentice, like check his money to see if he has it. Because when he has it, you can tell him like, "Can you please give me my change?" And then he will give it to you. Because sometimes, he will forget. Let me think. What else do you need to know about public transport in Gambia? So the vehicles, they are carrying the people, but also they are carrying the people's stuffs. So sometimes people will come with fish they got from the market, and the fish will literally, I had this the fish will literally be dripping from the ceiling down, and I'm just sitting there, and there's literally like fish juice dripping over my clothes. That's crazy to me. That's crazy. Like, I can handle a little bit of bump and a little bit of, people squishing you, but the fish juice, I cannot get over that, especially when you take those buses at Tanji, which is like a fishing village. There, you really have those type of things. And yes, like I said, you will get squished sometimes. Sometimes your dress will get stuck, or it's just very high to make a step because you have to step into the bus. And there's just so many things happening. You will bump your head. There's so many things happening, and maybe I'll even make a separate video about it because there's just too much. Then you will also have garages like Tipa Garage, which is also a popular point where it's known that there are a lot of cars there that go in different directions. So it's easy to take a car there. Also around Serekunda, very busy, lots of people. If you go there, you will always find a car to go home. If you live in a little bit further places like Sanyang, Gunjur, the buses aren't always driving anymore past a certain time when it's dark. So you do need to take that into account if you're traveling to different areas that are further away and you are not taking a town trip. It can get hard to get a bus, and sometimes also hard to get a town trip. There's certain days of the week when it's very hard to get a car, and you will see a lot of Gambians just standing there waiting for like 30-40 minutes. Everybody's trying to get home, but there's just not enough drivers or not enough cars. I don't know why. With the yellow taxis, then they will also high up those prices, but you will notice it. It's still worth it to take it, especially if you're waiting for a long time. But I'm telling you this so that you're not going to be like shocked or like trying to argue with the driver, because that's a normal thing. Sometimes the prices will be higher based on the demand. You also have tuk-tuks in Gambia. Not everywhere. There are certain areas where they are. Like if you want to go to Serekunda, for instance, there you have a lot of those tuk-tuks. I find the tuk-tuks very cool because it's an open transport. So you can really like get the wind blowing and just enjoy the views. They're small, but they're cute. If you have to go like from A to B and you don't want to be walking, they can be very handy. I'm not sure about the price of the tuk-tuks though. I only had a tuk-tuk one time and I actually forgot to pay the man. Which is so stupid. I do think that the prices of the tuk-tuks, I thought they would be cheaper because of the way they look and the way they are built, but they are not necessarily cheaper than the other modes of transportation. Okay, let's talk motors and scooters. So you have a few people that drive motors and scooters, not super much, just some people. And it can be very handy to have a motor or a scooter because the traffic can get very congested, and obviously with a motor or a scooter you can just maneuver through it. So yeah, the traffic in Gambia, it can get pretty busy. There are just not enough alternative roads to go, so everybody's taking the main roads and it piles up. People would say that the traffic is very wild in Gambia. I have to say It is kind of wild. It is the wildest that I have seen it. It doesn't have as many traffic signs. It also barely has any traffic lights. Everything is a little bit gray area. If you're supposed to drive this way, they will just come from this way. They will just do whatever is convenient for them. And also, you have police stops in Gambia, but people will just maneuver around it. I heard that there's a lot of people who don't have an official driver's license. So that's also why there are people driving who never had official training. And you will see it when you look at the cars. A lot of cars have scratches and dents and things like that because people keep bumping into each other and like having small crashes. Also, like I said in a previous video, I saw a small child of like 8, 9 years old getting hit by a car. The reason that kid was hit, well, first of all, is it's both the fault. It's the fault of the kid and the driver because the kid is randomly running on the road and didn't estimate very clearly when to move. But then the driver also, could have predicted that. He could have looked ahead and already seen the kid. And then it's also the fault of obviously the government because there are no ways to cross that road safely. They have just recently, like last year, installed zebra crossing for the first time, like around Senegambia, and they are now spreading the zebra crossing because they realize some things need to be done because people are getting hurt and it's not a safe situation. So it's very good to see that they are developing and that they are approving and that they do care. It is very busy, especially around like sunset, I would say right before sunset because everyone is coming from work. Those are busy times. Also on the weekend, everyone is off on the weekend, so you will see a lot of locals hanging around the beach and things like that. If you are a tourist and don't have a place to be necessarily, just avoid those times of day. Just another thing Gambians do, which I was very surprised by, is they also take people that they don't know, strangers, for a ride. So if they see people waiting on the side of the road, they just ask them like, "Come, hop in the car," and the people just hop in, and then they will drive a little bit, and then they will get out again. So I was surprised to see that because where I'm from, that's not considered safe. But there is just part of the culture and just helping each other out. Another thing that I really suggest to do is if you are taking a town trip anyway and you see that there are people waiting for a long time, just take them with you. You are already going somewhere. Just let them join and don't let people suffer. You have the money to take a town trip, but use that money for good. And then I also have 3 tips for you. The first tip is make sure you always have small change because driver don't always have enough change. The second tip I have is if you already know you're going to be the first one to be going out, make sure you sit in the front. So don't go sitting all the way in the back when you're the first one to go out. That doesn't make any sense. Now everybody has to get up again. And also communicate that to them because it's normal that if you come first, you're going to go sit in the back and then it slowly fills up. So if you're not going to sit in the back, just tell them, like, I have to go out first so that they understand. If you are getting into a car, make sure that nobody is taking things out of your bag because sometimes they pretend to like push you to get in the car, like they are in a rush, but they're actually trying to grab something from your purse. And the third tip is if you are with a friend and you want to, get a taxi, you can put up how many people you are with. So if you are with 2 and you want a taxi, like instead of doing this, just do this so that he understands. Because sometimes they can drive further because they think you are with too many, let's say. Because sometimes there are like more people standing around. So they won't stop because they only have 2 spots. But if you do like this, they understand, oh, I can take those 2. I hope this really helps you to get around in Gambia. If you want to have more information about this, just put it in the comments. I have another video for you that you will definitely like and find helpful. It's here and it's about things I wish I knew before coming into the country. If you want to know fun things you can do in the Gambia, I made a video on that and you can find it here. And I see you in the next one. Stay high. Bye.